everyone. I feel like we just left. Haven't you had enough of me yet today? It was, I think, 7.5 hours we were together today, but I knew that everyone wanted to hear from your other favorite New York lawyer, Mark
Hello.
Bederow.
How are
So
you?
I'm lucky enough to have him here with me to discuss the debacle that was today of closing arguments. Today is June 25th, 2024. And today was closing arguments on day 31, I think, of the Karen Reed trial that will never end. And Mark, I've talked for 7.5 hours today, so I'm going to turn it over to you to give us your thoughts right away.
I think the summations were probably what people expected, meaning one lawyer is very skilled, very well versed in the facts and the skill of legal argument, and one is a little clutter brain and maybe doesn't connect so well and takes liberty with certain facts and is just a little unimpressive. So no big surprise who's who, I think.
Yeah. What about Lally changing his whole timeline to now say that the accident was at 12:30 instead of 12:45?
I Yeah, I think he did a lot of things that were borderline, maybe even objectionable. I mean, people don't like to object in summations, I understand, and usually don't, but his timeline was a little different. I think he took some liberties with his whole opening about I hit him, I hit him. I haven't gone back and watched all the original testimony, but I don't recall that many people claiming initially, the first responders all saying what he claimed they were saying. He also said that on John O'Keefe's clothes, there were only his DNA, which I think everybody remembers. There was a mixture of, I think it was 3 males in his blood. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I thought that they had also said that was blood. Maybe I'm overstating that. I don't know. But either way, that's kind of a big lie, if you will, because blood on his pants from 3 people, or even DNA from 3 people, certainly tends to support the defense, certainly more than it would support the prosecution. So he took liberties with that. If anybody had peanut butter and jelly sandwich on their bingo card, you win. You got that. And he ran out the clock. No surprise there. But what he didn't do was address anything that Alan Jackson said. He just kind of had his own scripted summation and went with it. And he had it, written out in his notepad, which he was furiously flipping from time to time, which, I mean, you know this because you've done this kind of stuff. If you go last, it's such a huge advantage because you get to respond to what the first guy says, but that's not how he does it. He just has his script and sticks with it and doesn't adjust. So he never really, in my view, addressed anything that Jackson said, which poked a lot of holes in the case. He barely mentioned the ARCA guys. He just gave them, I thought, very short shrift and credited Trooper Paul about the arm being in, not out, and therefore whatever the ARCA guys said had no meaning. So he just, to me, ignored the science, which is bonkers. I mean, the science in this case from yesterday is overwhelming, and standing alone is, if you credit it, it's reasonable doubt. I mean, nothing else matters. No car accident, no crime, not in this case anyway.
Right. Yeah,
So
100%. So why didn't he try and defend any of that when he had Jennifer McCabe, Carrie Roberts, Brian Albert, and Colin Albert looking over his shoulder from the gallery? What?
that was weird. I guess the people you'd have to blame for that are the O'Keefes, though, more than Lally, I think. I don't think he has much to do with that. And if anybody doubted, there's always been this discussion of maybe Paul O'Keefe is starting to turn around. Forget it. I mean, obviously, they've heard all the allegations against these people. They know even a lot of other weird things that maybe aren't even in the trial record. I mean, between the selling the house, getting rid of Chloe the dog, changing the basement floor. I mean, how do those things not, amongst other stuff, drive you a little mad or a little skeptical of being around these people? But apparently not. And I mean, look, to me, it speaks even worse of what people call the McAlberts. I don't really use that term, but it's just, I guess it's easier to lump them together.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is following on their little trip to Canton the other day where they got into that little ruckus outside Chris Albert's restaurant and the bar that they all went to. So they look terrible. I can't believe that these people would have the gall to show up like this. It clearly is attempting to send a message to somebody. And of all of them to show up, the one that I found the most weird was Colin Albert, because he has basically no relationship at all with John O'Keefe. You can't even couch it under "I care." Same with Brian Albert; he doesn't care.
Right.
Jennifer McCabe claims, that she was close, whatever. But for Colin to show up, that to me is just an fu. Weird.
I didn't understand I mean, why those three? Why would Lally think that that would be good strategy to have them looking directly at the jury, which in my mind looks like jury intimidation? If you're trying to say that Brian Albert is responsible for killing John O'Keefe, and you're trying to say that he's so powerful and everyone's so afraid of him, and you're the defense, and then there he is staring right at the jury like, I'm watching you.
I
I
mean,
mean,
part of me thinks, they come in, and of course the first person they want to intimidate is Karen Reed, which, I mean, she's just sitting there. And frankly, I mean, you saw, we were there together, actually.
mhm,
She's made a pretty strong stuff, generally, just
yeah,
pretty even keeled about all this. So they're not going to intimidate her. Then you think, are they trying to intimidate her family? They're also made pretty strong stuff and pretty even keeled about all of this.
yeah,
And I don't think that's going to work. It's certainly not going to intimidate Jackson, who had no problem calling them, or at least essentially calling Brian Albert, for all intents and purposes, a killer, or something close to it, or, responsible in some way from 5 feet away. He had no problem calling Jennifer McCabe a liar and all of that. And that leaves you with, like you said, the jury. And that's a little chilling. I mean, those guys, especially Brian Albert, he's kind of tough looking, and just putting on that little cardigan or whatever he puts on.
I call it a Mr. Rogers sweater. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes him look a little more grandpa, but still, I mean, given what you've heard about him, that that bald chrome staring at the jurors the whole time next to McCabe, it's just so weird.
It was not a good look. It made me uncomfortable just watching it on TV.
Yeah, I mean, and they made a scene coming in, and they had an escort from the police. Like, what is that?
I didn't see that part of it. So yeah, tell me, did they came in with an escort?
Well, not literally in the building, but I think, people, I mean, obviously Carney was taking pictures of them outside, and I think others were, and they looked to have some degree of an escort coming in from some kind. I couldn't even tell what agency. Maybe it was the state police, who knows? But I think they did that too when they all appeared to testify. They kind of got the treatment, which, again, the optics of that I don't think are so good either.
And if they're talking about being harassed, why would they want to be on a worldwide stage? Like, and I thought maybe that's why Colin was there, because he was harassed and he testified about being harassed as a witness, and Jen McCabe was harassed, and I guess Carrie and Brian Albert weren't harassed, but to have them there after their testimony, and then to come willingly onto a worldwide stage to sit there and glare at
Yeah,
Karen and the jury. How
I
afraid
mean,
are they? I mean,
what are they, 15, 20 feet dead across from the jurors?
mhm,
And for hours, at least 2.5 hours, whatever it was. That's pretty weird.
yeah.
But everything in this case, as you know, I mean, this case is just bizarro world for so many different reasons.
It's historic for, I think, a lot of reasons. I think that after there was a juror issue this morning. I don't know how much. I know that you're on trial, and so that I don't know how much you've been able to watch or did watch or caught up on.
I mean, you watch before and during the breaks, you can do this. So, sometimes you're a little behind, but my understanding was, they got rid of a female juror today.
Mhm,
Um, the people, and again, I don't put much stock in this, no disrespect to anyone, but when they start saying this one was in favor of her or against her, I think that's, who knows. But a lot of people were suggesting that she was a pro defense juror. Again, means nothing to me. But
mhm.
then this afternoon, one of the local reporters found the juror, or at least information about her, after she was dismissed, and spotted a picture on her Facebook page or something of someone in her family or friend wearing a Boston Police t-shirt. So there was some speculation as to whether, that's related to her dismissal. I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't. I don't know what the reason is, why they got rid of her, whether people were upset or not. But I mean, they did get rid of her.
Yeah, the day that you and I were in the courtroom together was the day that they dismissed the first female
Right.
juror. And I remember they brought her in and then they
Yep.
turned off the cameras because they caught her on camera. But during the time, I think they brought up while we were there 3 other female jurors that the judge
Yeah.
spoke to, sidebar.
Yep.
And my understanding from what I read is that the one who was dismissed today, was one of those 3 that were
Really?
called up. Yeah. So I think they call her, I think she was the one sitting in seat number 3. No, seat number 3 and seat number 2 wound up to be the alternates. The one who was
Where is seat one? Is
released,
that like the farthest away from us in the
I
front
don't
row? I don't
know.
even know how they number it there.
So they pick it was weird because the judge picks the foreperson and she
So
picked
weird.
a male and she said he was sitting in seat number 1. So when you and I were there, I'm trying to think, like, if it was the front row all the way on the left, there was a gentleman sitting there like on an extra chair. And then behind him was a guy who was very preppy and he had like a
Yes.
button-down shirt on.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if either one of those was
Right.
juror number 1, but it's a
I
man.
don't
There's
know, but
6 women and 6 men left.
they do it. I mean, having the judge pick the four, I mean, picking one, I guess, is the best way to do it, especially if everyone thinks this judge is like up to no good. The
Mhm.
easiest way is just to, okay, because I mean, normally in New York, juror number 1 is, guess what? You got the job. And that's just the way it is. But it's interesting how they don't know whether they're jurors or alternates until right before,
Yeah,
which is probably a better system so that everyone
I think
pays
so too.
attention. Because you know this in New York, if you're an alternate,
Like,
they tend to tune out.
you're like,
Uh,
what a waste of my time. I'm not even gonna
yeah,
get to deliberate.
because yeah, I mean that's just the reality. Usually they don't. So, but I guess they got the case a little later than usual. And how long did they deliberate today? Maybe an hour or so.
No, I think they were out. So they went out at like 1:30, like 1:28, let's say, and then they came back with a note. The judge sent them a note at 4 saying, "Do you want to stick around or go home?" And they said, "We want to leave." So
Okay,
two and a
so
half hours.
yeah, I mean, it's as you said, a 30-day murder trial. And you never know how they do it. Now, I did not see the instructions that she gave, to the jury before they went and deliberated. Somebody said that she encouraged them not to take a straw poll. Is
She
that true?
did. Yeah, she did. She said, I don't know if you should, like, she didn't say don't do it. She just said, I would suggest that you don't, it was a little bit of a
I don't like
suggestion, but
that.
that's what they do.
Right, but I mean, I think they ought to go do whatever they want to do, and as long as they're both or all of them are unanimous and comfortable in what they're doing, I don't think the judge should be telling them that. I mean, I think it would be helpful to know, are we, generally in the same ballpark or are we not? And if there's one person who's going another way, well, what's bothering you? I mean, the way sometimes it's been explained to me, and I don't always talk to jurors, but sometimes you do, that,
Always a good idea.
if there's somebody who is kind of on their own or in a smaller faction, assuming they're normal people, they say, what's bothering you, and what do we need to talk about to see if you're right or we're right, get the evidence, this and that. So I don't know if they didn't take a straw poll, how would they really know even where they are? And then you don't know what they start with. But I mean, this is why nobody ever wants lawyers on juries, because if I was in the jury and the foreperson, the first thing I would say is, was there a car accident or not? Because if there
Right.
isn't, we're all going home.
That's
I mean,
right.
you don't have to deliberate any further if there's no car accident. So it seems to me logically that would be the place to start. That's the only thing, by the way, that I was a little surprised about Alan Jackson's summation, which I thought was like spectacular. But I thought he might start with the car accident in a general sense and just make it clear, if you can't get past that, it's over, and then kind of go into his otherwise perfect, I thought, summation, but kind of put that in their brains right out of the gate to make it clear, like that this case is DOA, and a lot of this other
Right.
stuff doesn't matter. I was surprised by that, but it was a really good summation.
It was really good. And I was surprised. Were you surprised by the time limit?
Yeah, I mean,
An
it's a
hour? I didn't feel like an hour was enough. It's such a complex case and there was so much to it.
well, that's why Jackson's so good. He did it in like just under an hour. He didn't have to be warned. He clearly was organized. Yeah, and he comes in, boom, boom, gets out, as opposed to Lally. Mr. Lally, 5 minutes, 1 minute, you're done. I mean, you could just And even then, he's flailing around talking about nothing. But to limit lawyers to an hour in a high profile murder case where there were what 70 witnesses or whatever it was,
Maybe
hundreds and
more.
hundreds of exhibits. I mean, I don't know how much time you really need. I'm not a big fan of these super long summation, but limiting them to an hour seemed pretty short. But I almost wonder if that was because even this judge is concerned about having to listen to Lally drone on for 2 hours,
Right.
and she might get worried about the jurors. I mean, they're going to pull their hair out and go crazy. I mean, I almost fell asleep when we went, as everyone knows. I mean, it's
We both did. I mean, it was the Lally show that day. It wasn't our fault.
yeah, that was
And
unfortunate.
the lights kept going off, and then
Yeah,
you got, he's droning. It's a very like he should make like sleep tapes for people to
yeah,
fall asleep by, because that's what it felt like.
I know he's better than the whale sounds and the rain and all that. I mean, just I, I
Love the rain sound.
I mean, it sounds like when he talks, it sounds like you're listening to C-SPAN. I mean, it just sounds like congressional arguments over nothing. You just put on in the background, and he could just be droning on, and it's terrible. And I wonder if that has something to do with their time limit. I don't know.
You think? I don't know. I don't know,
I
but
don't know. An hour is really short to, I mean, literally say, I'm going to pull the plug, and she's serious. Most judges would say, I'll give you an hour, but they don't literally instruct the jury. If they're 5 minutes, I'm going to interrupt them and tell them. And if they're, I mean, she's too involved in every little thing. I mean, would it really kill anyone if even Lally was an hour and 5 minutes? I mean, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, she gave him and he was not anywhere near done. I mean, he had a huge pad. It was like he almost didn't even rehearse it at all to make sure that his timing was right, that he could get it in an hour.
He also did something I thought was really bad. He finally tried, I say tried, didn't succeed, to apologize for Proctor, because when he did it during the trial, it was a disaster. When he brought out the text messages, he had no attempt to indicate to the jury, I think this is wrong. And he kept objecting when Proctor was getting cross-examined, suggesting, I'm trying to help him keep this stuff out. So today he finally said the credible thing in words, but in demeanor, it was terrible. So he's saying the words, how this is inappropriate, it's inexcusable, but he's doing it like, what Trooper Proctor did is inappropriate, and he's literally reading and flipping his pad while he's doing this. And that, if ever there was a time that he should have looked at the jury and connected, like, I'm with you. He should have said something about the inverted tape for his own credibility.
Right.
He just doesn't do it. Instead, he talks about DNA that he claims doesn't exist, that did. He misstates other evidence, and he can't get time to address the strengths of the defense case, but he can get time to talk about, Juliana Nagel pounding a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, look, this as well. You can't ignore your opponent's strong points. I mean, whether it's a trial summation or an appeal, you have to confront the good and the bad. And sometimes, the opponent has a good argument, and but you have to try to deal with it. And what Lally did with respect to what do they call them? The crash daddies? Is that what they call them online?
The crash daddies, the ARCA guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who are just, devastating witnesses. He just buries his head in the sand, ignores them, and hopes that if he'll wake up, they won't be there anymore. And he sounds like a 5-year-old, that, as opposed to just saying, look, this is what it is. If you want to make the argument that, they didn't have enough evidence before them, which I don't think is a very strong argument, because science is science. It's math and physics and law, like scientific law. And I thought those witnesses handled it perfectly. It doesn't change it, because the equation of force needed to do this doesn't change. But he should have at least done something better than say, well, Trooper Paul said this, and that makes sense. And he might have had dimples on his arms. And
so much focus on the minutia and not, the bigger issues. It's like in his opening, the way he named something like 74 characters, right? And then I started to hear him start to go into that again in the closing, like, and this person and that person, and Juliana Nagel and Ryan Nagel and Heather Maxon, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, like, focus on the bigger issues, the big picture that everyone is seeing
Well, I told someone else earlier today, I agreed. It's just like his opening. I said it was basically a regurgitation of his opening, except this time it's in evidence. So, he just changes the wordology, if that's a word, in terms of,
He likes
the
to say
evidence.
phraseology or
Yeah.
directionality. If he says
What,
directionality one more time, I'm going to stick a fork in my eye.
yeah, it's bad. But it essentially was just to me, a regurgitation of his cluttered opening, passionless, just beat red again, standing there, white knuckling the podium, and you can't
White
remember
knuckling is right.
anything he said with any substance. And
No,
but
I have
what
notes.
you heard, when you heard Jackson, you remember it. Look the other way. Don't look. And then at the end, urging them not to look the other theme. These guys have theme. And Yannetti did it in the opening too. Everybody knows, Karen Reed was framed and wait for us. You remember the buzzwords
That's right.
because they use that theme throughout the trial and they finished with it, masterfully. And as opposed to just the guy that gets up there with the cluttered notebook and just starts talking about. And the funny thing is, I thought he started, accuracy aside, of I hit him, which I don't think was accurate, and it's a
She's
shame that
4 times. It was only
yeah,
3 times, by the way,
yeah,
if you
uh,
believe it.
if you believe it. But at least for what he had, I'm like, this is a little surprising. That's a good comment. I mean, he veers into, Karen Reed's a killer because obviously she didn't take her shoes off. I mean, this is
What I mean, what? So she didn't take her shoes off, and then he said because she knew that he was dead.
she didn't
That's
care
why
anymore.
she didn't take her shoes
So
off.
she's going to tap dance essentially on his grave by saying, I'll show you. I'm going to walk in the house with my shoes on.
That was I almost like I couldn't believe people were not laughing out loud in that courtroom. I was horrified that he would
His
even do that.
his emphasis on the voicemails and messages,
Yeah, his diagrams. He had diagrams of timelines.
like this was a big deal, but like you said, no real timeline as to when the actual alleged murder occurred. He made no attempt to really prove the car accident. He just kind of assumed it as
Mhm.
fact. He never like really explained it, which I thought was terrible. Now another thing, when you go back to Jackson again, like somebody who does it the right way, look how he talked about the phone calls. How again he used a story and common sense theme about she's waiting for him. He's not coming out. She's angry. He's still not coming out. She's more angry. F you, goes home, whatever. Now you're not hearing from him. Anger is now turning to concern, like going through the natural emotions of somebody like her who sent those messages or 53 calls, whatever it was. And I thought he made it sound perfectly logical as opposed to Lally, who, is talking about angry woman who must have killed her boyfriend because they had an argument and because, he might have, in her mind, kissed a girl in Aruba or whatever it was. I mean, it was just stupid.
Oh, and the romantic kiss between Karen and Higgins. He said romantic kiss about 3 times, and I wanted to throw up. It was almost like if he kept saying it, maybe people would actually believe it that this was more than a peck.
Yeah. And I thought actually that Alan did a really good job too. Really, there's been so much focus on like Brian Albert as kind of the agent provocateur of this nasty thing that they believe happened. I thought he did a nice job with the Higgins motive and Higgins at the bar, kind of acting a little weird at the end in the text message and how he was getting blown off and overestimating what he perceived those messages meant and whether that might have led to something. I mean, who knows? You'll never know. But I mean, he's putting out all these plausible scenarios and, in a world of reasonable doubt, which on top of everything has brilliant experts saying there's no car accident, not because I say so, but because scientific law says so.
Right. You can't argue with science. Here's his I don't know if if you're in the car listening to this on your way back from
No.
Queens, you might
No.
not have seen these chalks, but here's like this
Oh my God.
timeline.
Who
Right.
who wants to look at this? It's so
And it's on the
cluttered.
big screen. You can't even read it, right? When we were there, we could not see what was on the screen at
But this
all.
is so symbolic of like his brain. I mean, look at this. It's like throw up on a TV. It's just all over the place. It's cluttered. It's disorganized. I can almost hear his voice in reading this. It's so visually unappealing.
It's like
I mean, can you even follow this?
Mr. McLaughlin did a PowerPoint on Canva, and this is what they're showing the jury in a murder trial.
This is, I mean,
Okay, look. So here it
look,
is. 12:30. I'll read it because you probably can't read it. It's all blurry. And
yeah.
this is his timeline for January 29th, 2022. 12:30 a.m. Second trigger event. 8 minutes after the 3-point turn, vehicle in reverse at 24.5 miles an hour. Okay, at 12:30. So it doesn't say this is when Karen hits him with her car. It doesn't say that. It says at 12:33, Karen calls John
If,
unanswered. 12:36, Karen's phone connects to the Wi-Fi at One
right.
Meadows.
Can
So
we, I'm sorry.
where's the
So
car?
in between these two entries, shouldn't there be an entry where it says Karen Reed mows down John O'Keefe? Like,
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of a small detail for this. No.
It's not even part of the timeline. I mean, he wants everyone to make this leap of faith because in his opening it was at 12:45.
Right.
And since he didn't even know his own evidence,
Isn't that something, by the way?
I mean, it's the trigger event. So there's a trigger event here, but there's no collision.
And not to mention the fact that the person that he's relying upon to show that the triggered event, if you will, that resulted in the 24 mile an hour backwards is key cycle 162 or whatever it was. When it's funny because this case is all about math, and of course the defense experts are really good at math, but unfortunately Trooper Paul can't do math because when he was adding up the key cycles, he was off. And there's like a really good argument that the 24-hour whatever it is are these clowns in the Canton parking lot or something, or some other place doing this, that it's not even at the right time to be the event. On top of the fact that how would she do this if Ryan Nagel and those kids were in the pickup truck right there?
Uh-huh.
And Higgins' Jeep, apparently.
And Jen McCabe is texting John
Where
at
are you?
12:40 and
Looking out the
12:42,
window.
looking out the window, and
Yeah.
her and Maddie is also looking out the window of the front door or the side door, wherever they're looking out the window, because these two were looking out the window the entire night and see Karen's car move up 3 times. And she's texting them like, he doesn't say what the texts are. And do you remember what they were? It was like, you hear, pull up
Yeah.
behind me.
Yeah.
Where are you? So how is this happening at 12:40 if now the accident is 12:30 and nobody sees the body? Like already you've lost them.
They are
What are we doing?
what I didn't see this morning, because I was running around, so I just jumped straight to the summation. Did she give them their consciousness of guilt charge or not?
She did not, but she let Lally argue it.
Okay. I mean,
So
I'm okay
and
with
that's
that.
what he talked about with, Karen going back to the house.
Right.
And he says, and she ran right up the stairs and went up there for 10 minutes. And she
The ring on the computer or something.
yeah, and she could have
Yeah.
deleted those, and there's these videos missing, and then she goes away and she tells Erin, I'm never going to see you again. I have a feeling I'm never going to see you again. And that was all consciousness of guilt. And also the not taking off the shoes in the house was consciousness of guilt.
I mean, I don't have a problem letting him argue it, but it's pretty weak. But her giving a charge on it, I think, would be a little over the top. But
I mean, I kind of was zoning out during the instructions, but
yeah.
I don't think she gave the charge. She did not give the charge. Somebody is saying in the chat, and I did not hear. Yeah, hiding the murder weapon. Right, that she was hiding the murder weapon.
God.
She drove that car all the way to her parents' house in a blizzard, and
Don't
therefore,
you, by the way, feel almost bad? Not really, but almost feel bad for Lally's partner in crime, who, for the most part, has avoided having her face on TV, hidden in the weeds. When this is all over, maybe she kind of disappears, and then yesterday, introduces herself to the party in this like really pissy and snivelly, whiny tone about, she took the murder weapon, my God, she brought it to her father's house and hid it so well that they left it in plain view in the driveway with the taillight face. They didn't even back it, so they hid the taillight. That doesn't sound like doing anything other than
And then she never
self-serving insurance.
contacted any of them again. Because
Right.
it was a condition of her bail, number one, and number two,
Small details,
because they
small.
took her phone and she probably
Yeah.
didn't know anybody's number, but she also was prohibited from contacting them. She was
Yeah.
not allowed to.
It's also pretty clear too that the mother seems to have hated her from the get-go too, which can make it and blamed her probably for everything that was going wrong. But yeah, I don't think that's really strong argument of guilt. I don't think there's any real strong argument of guilt. And once these ARCA guys testified, I don't think there's anything at all. So I don't know why people are freaking out because, the jury had the temerity to say we want to go home. It's kind
Yeah.
of
So let's
lame.
talk about that for a second. Let's thank some people here. Thanks, Foos, Blues, and Clues, two of my favorite lawyers, and for being a member for 2 months. Thank you, Melanie and Mark. All smarts, no snark. Oh no, we're the snark tank. We
Yeah, that
are the
I
snark tank BLT. So
nice, but yeah, no, I very snarky.
we are.
So I said last night that I thought, and there was a big disclaimer, and it didn't come true, that if they really kept to their schedule and started at 9, and she held them to an hour, and they finished by 11, and she charged the jury, and they got the case like maybe around 12, that I thought by the end of the day, like 3:30 or thereabouts, that I wouldn't be surprised if they had a verdict, just
Me
because.
too.
But the fact that they doesn't mean much to me. I mean, they did start later, they didn't deliberate as long, but it is a murder case. And I mean, some people are saying, oh my God, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. I mean, you can't assume they're going to convict in 5 minutes. I mean, they probably could,
Or
but
acquit.
right.
Or
Oh
acquit.
my God, I actually meant acquit.
Yeah, or acquit in 5 minutes. And we don't know how long the verdict sheet is. They've
You
got to go
don't,
through,
yeah,
right? So who knows if it's all fakakta? They got to go through all the charges. And let's go into these lesser includeds in a second, because I thought that they were not going to include them, but they did. So Bruce says he lied when he said no one testified to John O'Keefe's arm being held out when hit. Trooper Paul
right.
stated it, demonstrated it, and that John O'Keefe's hand hit the car 19 inches in.
Yeah.
So
When you said the lesser included, my understanding that there was not the misdemeanor drunk driving charge. Did that
there was
change?
not that, but she said as a matter of law, and I had to write all this down. That's because you're my criminal defense attorney expert. As a matter of law, so second degree murder was the first charge, right? And then she went
Right,
through all the elements of that. And then the second charge was manslaughter
right,
by OUI or DWI,
right,
right?
right,
And then as a matter of law, she said they also must consider involuntary manslaughter,
right,
which negligence is not enough for that. It needs wanton or reckless
right,
conduct, that she intended the conduct that caused the death.
right,
And that also, as a matter of law, they must consider motor vehicular homicide. And that is only if they cannot find, as a matter of law, the involuntary manslaughter beyond a reasonable doubt, in which case they use a negligence standard. But it also
right.
requires intoxication, and it requires her to be operating the motor vehicle. But it has to be operated in a negligent manner that caused his death.
See,
And
to me,
intent does not matter for
right.
that charge of motor vehicular homicide. And
I mean,
then the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the last thing was just leaving the scene of an accident
Right,
causing injuries or death, which is a separate charge.
right. So to me, the thing that would have worried me the most if I'm them, and this is going to sound ridiculous because it's certainly not the most serious, but I think the only charge that she would be in potential jeopardy of getting convicted of is just typical drunk driving, like not causing an accident, not killing anyone, just operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol. And I think it was a smart move not requesting that. But every charge that you listed still requires, the car accident. I mean, and
Right.
whether even the leaving the scene of the accident, which doesn't require killing them, obviously, but it requires an accident. And
Yeah. But I think a lot of people are like, listen, if you're going to charge her with second degree murder and you're going to upgrade the charges, you should not be able to then say, well, if you don't find her guilty of second degree murder, you can find her guilty of this, 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 or this
yeah, I mean, I don't
with a
think it's
lesser
that
standard.
uncommon, unfortunately, but I don't, to me, analytically, if you're the defense or if you're a juror who's thinking about this the right way, I wouldn't even be getting to was it intentional or not until was there a car accident that hit him? And I mean, the good news for them is if they conclude that there's reasonable doubt about that fact, they don't even have to get into all this gobbledygook about lesser includeds and different mens rea, which is just mental state for those who don't know, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they could literally
Mhm.
just say every crime requires a car accident, and if there's no car accident, there's no crime. I mean, that's their
Yeah,
version of, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit, I guess.
right. Did you hear this? Karen says, thanks, Karen. It's been reported that the tow truck driver stated he did not drive the SUV into the Sally Port.
That makes perfect sense to me, only because, I mean, look what there's the car is the so-called murder weapon.
Mhm.
So why would they be allowing a tow driver to do that? And of course, if the tow truck driver didn't do that, that doesn't leave many suspects who could have, obviously Proctor, Buconic, and whatever come to mind as the guys who would have done that. Perhaps others, but that certainly ups the sketchy scale, perhaps, of what happened in the Sallyport for sure.
Yeah, and then the question was, why didn't they call the tow truck driver? And I mean, I think it was a strategy to keep their defense short and sweet. Well, how do you feel about their strategy? I mean, there's a lot of other witnesses they could have called, but what's
I
your thoughts on that?
I mean, I
Even if
agree
constraining.
with paring down the case like they did. I thought that was smart. The Although I would have made room for the tow truck driver for, I mean, his testimony would have taken 15 minutes. And if he would have said, I saw the taillight and it didn't look like what Proctor said it looked like, and it looked like what the Dighton cop said, then I'm not sure why you wouldn't do that. So, I mean, they obviously had a reason, but reasonable minds can disagree on certain things, but I would have called him because I think it's just another nail in Proctor's coffin. And that, he's not credible. Now it's likely that he planted evidence and, all that other stuff. And like even yesterday, when you heard the ARCA guys saying that I don't care about the taillight pieces because it doesn't make sense against the science. I mean, to me, that was just another nail in Proctor's coffin too. Well, that really suggests that this evidence was planted because
Yeah,
it couldn't crack scientifically the way, I mean, the guy made a cannon for Christ's sake, right? I
he
mean,
made a cannon. I
he made
know.
a cannon, and the
Crash
other
cannon
guy,
daddy.
I mean, these guys clearly know what they're doing scientifically. And when they're telling you, I don't really need to care about the taillight because it didn't happen from this, well, then it didn't happen at all. And so how did it end up there? And, it's pretty bad.
Exactly. RNCGSU, thanks to the five. Was it a mistake Jackson didn't head off the controversy? Karen saying she killed him multiple times. That was one of the only arguments the DA had.
I'm sure, look, first of all, he knows what he's doing. So let's start
Yeah.
with that. And, it's easy to sit up here and Monday morning quarterback, but he's been living this for 2.5 years and knows it more than anyone. But I would suspect, because I think my brain would work in the same way, there's a risk reward. I mean, if you object 10 seconds into his summation and she says, no, the jury can, there is some evidence and, I'll allow it and let them decide. You might be concerned with looking like you're making ouch objections right out of the
Mm-hmm.
gate, and we talk about ouch objections all the time. Lally invented them. He made about 800 during the
Mommy, help me, help
yeah,
me.
I don't have a reason, but just don't allow this, please. So I think from his perspective, he just let it go, let it roll off, trust the jury. And in the grand scheme, if she thought she hit him and said that, that's kind of understandable. But in light of the science and all the other stuff, you could easily determine, well, she was mistaken. And that she had, a cracked taillight. And I know there was some talk too that, oh my God, the ARCA guy said you can't crack the taillight from the slow speed crash into the John O'Keefe's car. But I think wasn't he operating under the assumption of a taillight that looked like the way Proctor claimed it looked?
That's what I thought because I commented, yeah, it can't demolish a taillight, but it can
Right.
crack a taillight.
I don't think he was ever, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Maybe I missed this, but I don't think he was presented with the theory that, well, could it cause like a small crack? I think that, I mean, he was working with the evidence they gave him, which was 90% of a missing taillight.
Yes, I agree. I think it absolutely, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. He was, could it cause this damage to the taillight
Right.
backing into the SUV? And remember, they only got what the feds gave them,
Right.
So they were not hired by the defense. They didn't get their materials from the defense or from the Commonwealth. So they
Yeah.
were hired for a very specific purpose,
And that's, I
a
mean,
narrow
really,
scope.
right, a narrow scope, and really one of the most devastating things for the jury to hear, that these were hired by another agency, and they know it's the FBI at this point. There's no question. And the way that they dragged that out for like 6 or 7 questions was done very well, and
Mhm.
how they were equally available to both sides, and we called you, not them. And
Right.
the optics of that are terrible for the
N-
DA. And
n-
if Lally's strongest argument is, well, you didn't get told this or that and the other, I mean, these guys are like, yeah, well, we don't really need it, because if we're looking at the injuries, and the working premise we're given is, going 24 miles an hour backwards, the damage on the car doesn't match. The damage on John O'Keefe doesn't match. I thought one of the interesting things they said was, not the taillight damage. You remember how Karen's car had a dent or some kind of damage kind of near the windshield wiper?
Mhm.
They said didn't make sense. And it
Yep.
makes me wonder if they were cracking the taillight in the Sally port or
Mm.
something like that, did they also ding on purpose?
Did the
Be-
sledgehammer slip? I mean,
Because
Trooper
there's
Paul tried to
more.
say it was from him holding the glass in his hand, and that's what caused
Oh
the
my
dent in the.
God. I mean, I can't believe he tried to credit that guy today. That's
The Commonwealth knew about this report. It was turned over in the TUI documents, 3,074 pages worth of documents. They knew this accident reconstruction report was out there. They have deep pockets. They could have hired their own accident reconstructions. They did not have to rely on Trooper Paul's ridiculousness, and that's on them.
I don't agree, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because I there probably was no expert that they could get, literally,
Because
because
nobody would agree with them.
any professional expert who understands physics and kinetics and all that other bioengineering and this and that would almost certainly agree with these guys. And then, of course, so they're left with this dope from the state police. But to me, this encapsulates the scandal perfectly. I mean, they knew what this report was. They knew who these guys were. They knew their credentials, and they knew that these guys were absolutely a fatal headshot to the case. There's no way they didn't know it. And yes, she's going to get acquitted. It's going to happen whenever it happens. But so the question is, if they knew that, why did they go forward? There has to be a reason
Right. That's
they
what I'm
took
saying.
on a case that they literally knew they couldn't win. And even worse, they had to know was probably a false narrative in light of the physics. And yet they still go. And so I start getting all, is this Morrissey? Like, is this a personal conflict? Is this because he's concerned that somebody's coming for him? Is this a way to make it look like we're doing good work? Is this a discovery operation for him just to see, like on the one hand, they got the TUI materials.
Mhm.
So, I mean, for them, they got discovery if they're ultimately, a defendant. So they got some early
Right.
3,500 material if they become, that's just federal, discovery material. If they become defendants, I mean, I'm half kidding, but only half. I mean, who knows?
Right.
This is a real scandal. And I said something about this morning on the way to work when I get mostly bored. And that's when I go on my, Twitter bombing,
You're
ranting.
nuts.
Right.
You're
Uh,
nuts and brave.
well, yeah. But the question is, are these reporters, when this is over? I mean, who's going to ask Morrissey these questions? Because these are real. I
Mhm.
mean, they've known about this for so long. And how can you, with a straight face, go forward with a case like this based on all of these witnesses and everything else besides even the ARCA guys, the butt dials, the inconsistencies, all of this? I mean, what are they doing and why?
And if he had any integrity, wouldn't he just walk in and say, "I'm dismissing the charges. There's no
Yep.
evidence. Obviously, this couldn't have happened. We tried to find an expert to prove that it happened this way, and we couldn't. So therefore, there's no proof of a car accident. We dismiss the charges." Like, if the guy had any integrity, isn't that what he would do
It's what you're supposed to
in the
do.
real world?
Yeah.
With this, I mean,
You're,
you worked for the district attorney of the what, Manhattan? The
Manhattan.
Manhattan
Yeah.
DA's
Yeah.
office?
Yeah. You're supposed to do justice first, whatever that means. And in certain cases, it means you don't file charges. You sometimes dismiss charges. I mean, to me, I said this in the beginning when I got into this after I learned about the case. I don't know why she was indicted. Never
Mhm.
mind tried. It makes no
Oh,
sense to
yeah.
me. So, I mean, I think that's the real scandal is, and then, you look at someone like Lally today. I mean, how low must you feel and how much low self-esteem must you feel when you're making these arguments? You're just plodding through it, right? You're just meandering all over the place. Your brain doesn't believe what your mouth is saying, and that's why
Mhm.
your body language is this frumpy, coughing. And the McAlberts, I hate using that term, but whatever. It's easy when that's them. They're sitting in the audience. Internally, they've got to be laughing and saying, "This guy is our useful idiot," because he's like presenting what we need him to do, not effectively, really,
Right.
but they're sitting there, and the DA's office is basically prostituting itself to the benefits of these people who, at a minimum, the the DA's office knows that they were all running around on their phones at weird times doing weird things. And doesn't that bother them in the least?
No, as long as their secrets stay secret, I guess. That's what people think. That maybe Brian Albert's got a lot of stuff on a
And
lot of
that's
folks, and
why when you have a real lawyer and he says, look the other way, that's exactly what I mean. I love, is it a metaphor? I'm not one of those, but you know what I mean. When he's saying,
Mhm.
look the other way, and then I mean, that's exactly what the facts are about not paying attention to this, not going into the Albert house and asking questions, not asking them about the phone calls, not looking into any other possible scenarios, not having a different theory or a different course of action when you learn that science doesn't support what you claim, using a witness like this guy, Trooper Paul, who, I mean, I don't think you'll ever be seeing him
Oh, Paul.
ever be an expert again. I mean,
Mm.
he's the worst expert I've ever seen in my life, bar none. I mean, literally number one. I almost felt bad for him until I realized, but they're trying to convict an innocent person of murder. So,
Right.
reassign your pity, I guess. But
Mhm.
he, I mean, you were there too. And I mean, we saw him from feet away.
Yeah.
He, he went with the flow, which is a problem, and it's the culture. He didn't strike me though as the like, my decision is to fudge things, and you know what I mean. He's a follower, I thought, more than a leader of yeah, as opposed to like the one that struck me the most, actually, even more than Proctor, was Buchanan. I thought he struck me as a leader of these kinds of things and was comfortable doing it. Where
Mhm.
and Proctor too, but he got caught. So that's his self-pity act was just because he got caught. But even he seemed a little dopier and just kind of sheepish. Where I thought Buchanan was an arrogant, like real. I mean, the way he's leaning on the
Mhm.
rail. And don't forget, he's the one that they put the video in through, and had
Yep.
no problem saying
Yep.
the video is legitimate. And only when oh yeah, because
Yeah,
he
but
got
it's like when you look in a mirror, you still see your face. What's the big deal?
right. Well, the big
Okay.
deal is the tail light is no longer showing, and it probably would have shown a lot more tail light than you guys say. And also, when also off camera is Proctor, who, for all intents and purposes, may be humping the taillight, doing something over there that
Yeah.
might be relevant to the defense. So,
Yeah, and both of them said they never went near that taillight, and there they are in the video near the taillight. Jen says, may I ask when either of you think the feds will present themselves or a report will be finalized, et cetera? Who, if anyone, is most likely to be charged? Thank you for all you do.
it's hard to say, but I mean, the fact that the feds are looking at all, this had to have started with some form of corruption. So, I mean, common sense would tell you, I think, that you would start with state police, the Canton police, the DA. I mean, those are the ones. And of course, if any of the Alberts or McCabe's and Higgins are involved, I mean, we don't know what they know, other than the fact there's no way when they turned over the 3,000 pages that's everything.
Right. Right.
There's no way. So we're all guessing and speculating. God knows what they know. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe there's really nothing else there. But I tend to think that they know a lot more, because they certainly tried to convince the DA to stop, and when they didn't, when they dumped all this material on the defense. I don't want to say that never happens, because it happened to me in a case. I got a ton of TUI material from the U.S. attorney because the Brooklyn DA was not behaving. But so I won't say never, but let's just say it's rare. And that's their version of extending two very prominent middle fingers in the DA's face,
Right.
saying, if you're not going to do it, we're going to make this miserable for you. And I think they would give them anything that wouldn't compromise whatever they're looking at. So I think, like, for example, the ARCA reports at this point, that doesn't need to be confidential for whatever they're doing. So you get that. But they
Mhm.
did get some grand jury testimony, but did they get, where's the real Sally Port video in all this? Do
Right.
they have it? I don't know. I mean, there's still that video that's missing 42 minutes, and then when it comes back on, Proctor is standing right next to the taillight.
Mhm.
So in those 42 minutes, is he tapping it with a hammer and screwdriver? Is he smashing it
Right.
with, I don't know. Maybe he didn't, but somebody did.
But if they were if the Canton PD was in control of that video, it may be something the feds would never get, because that could have just been an in-house thing. That could have been an in-house machine. They could have destroyed the tape or whatever. It's probably reel to reel. At this point, these guys are probably still using old technology, and who knows? But we
But
don't. We still don't know what they were investigating, and this could have been a collateral issue.
But that also could be part of the corruption investigation,
Mhm.
is if the Canton police destroyed evidence in the case, then lied to the feds about it. I mean, obviously, if you lie to the feds, that's a crime. 18 USC 1001,
Right.
the Martha Stewart crime that
That's
everyone
right.
knows. So, I mean, I think that would get on their radar.
Yeah.
I would think Higgins is potentially on the radar, and not for the using his buddy
The
to
kiosk. Yeah.
extract his phones. I mean, that's like more administrative, I think, than criminal. You lose vacation pay or something, or vacation days for that. But Higgins, he definitely lied under oath, either to the feds or in the state trial, or both. When he testified about destroying his phone, he definitely gave inconsistent testimony as it related to what he told the feds. So, would they look into that? I don't know, but we're speculating. But I don't think
Yeah.
they're gone. And I think one of the most interesting things was when you learned that the ARCA report is from February of 24. So
Right.
in like federal dog years, if you will, that's like yesterday, because they're slow as molasses. And
Right.
anybody in law enforcement will tell you that they move slowly, methodically, and something in February is like yesterday. So that's really recent,
Yeah.
really recent.
Really recent. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Are you good?
it can't be done. I mean, it can't be done. They wanted that report for a reason, and they essentially just got it. And it's bad for the DA, and it's bad for
Real bad.
Proctor. It's bad for Buchanan. And I don't know if those guys were in a federal grand jury getting asked, did you ever touch a taillight? What I do know is that Proctor testified in this trial over and over again, I never touched the taillight. And Buchanan said, we didn't touch the taillight. So there's a whole nother round of transcripts that the feds could look at and evaluate. So I don't think they're close to done.
Yeah, I agree. Cato Builder says, are you worried that they didn't come back quickly, meaning they might think there was a car hit him to cause death? Worries me a bit. It should be over. I think the
No,
jury instructions alone are going to take them a long time to read through and go over. And they were probably tired. And there was something like 3,000 people outside the courthouse today, which is not a great feeling either. If you're a juror, do they sneak them out the back door? I don't know what they're doing with regard to that.
I don't know. I think they're meeting off site and they're busing them, aren't they?
I don't
I
know.
think they're like quasi sequestered, at least for coming and going. But I think you made a good point earlier, which is just the different legal instructions on the actual charges that you described are
Mhm.
pretty convoluted. It's late in the day. We've been here for 9 weeks. We just heard Lally literally get shut down. Your time's up. We're tired. Want to go home. I wouldn't read into it at all. And I mean, it's a murder case. Do I think that it should be over? Yeah, I do. I think this is as open and shut an acquittal as you could possibly get. But, you don't know what the jurors are thinking, literally. You don't know whether there's one person that they feel they need to convince for something. It could be
Right.
any number of things, but a couple of hours in a murder case it's not that much.
No, I just think we were all thinking it would just be fast. They'd go, no, a car accident. We're done here. Stephanie says at the Canton Town meeting tonight, is this tonight? A lady stood up and said she heard from some teenagers in town that they know what happened at that house and it wasn't Karen. Well, that's interesting.
You know, it is. And the sad thing is this. So if, I mean, look, if I were the defense, I'd get investigators talking to these kids immediately. And you preparing the motion if it leads to something. But the sad thing is that if that happened at a public meeting in town, and assuming it passes even the most basic plausibility, like these kids are not clowns who are just drinking beer in the meeting and laughing and making it up.
Mm-hmm.
A real DA, even at this stage of the game where the jury's deliberating, would be concerned about that and would at least take steps to listen to that. Maybe nothing, but
Right.
what if we have the wrong woman on trial? And
Well,
the
I
reality
think we
is
do.
right. No, I do too. No, I'm
Mhm.
fully comfortable at this point saying I think she's actually innocent, and
Yeah.
I do. It doesn't. I
There was
think
no car accident. I
there's
just
no
could never
car
get past
accident.
that.
I mean, I don't know how you get past that, but this DA would never do it. They're not going to care. But if I were the defense, I would be trying to investigate these kids right now.
I would
Interview
think
these.
so too.
Yeah.
Who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance? I decided it was the name of the band playing that night at the High Tops. That was seriously a top Lally moment I will never forget. That was wild.
The new house band at the waterfall should be called Who, If Anyone. That should be the name of the band.
Yeah, who, if anyone. Thanks, Vet Girl, for the 10 BA Crown whiskey drink at the house. Brian Higgins said, no whiskey. I left. What happened to the Crown whiskey? Maybe the bottle. Brian Albert said there was Crown whiskey at the house. I don't know. That Crown whiskey does have a very, right? Isn't that the one with the big round bottle with all the spikes on it?
I don't. It's like it's like that weird. I don't know exactly. I can't visualize it entirely, but
If the victim wasn't a cop, would this go to trial, do you think?
well,
I mean,
the reality is they're not treating the victim like a cop.
that's it. The investigation was so horrific.
This is not a police murder investigation, because if it was, they would have had all hands on deck. They would have done a million things. They would have spared no expense. They would have, I mean, Jesus, they would have set up a crime scene. I mean, if everybody remembers, the state police said we're not coming at 8 a.m. and they abandoned the crime scene. So this really is not a murder of a cop case. It's a case where they're protecting a homeowner cop and and his family, and it's sad. I mean, if obviously John O'Keefe, even after he's dead, is treated like nothing other than a corpse on a lawn.
Yeah. Melissa says thoughts on Brian Higgins' absence today. I think he's turning with the feds for a plea deal.
I don't know if he's turning with the feds for a plea deal, but if he was, I don't think he would have testified as a prosecution witness and perjured himself, which I think he clearly did. So if he had something working with the feds, they would be less interested when he perjures himself in another proceeding. And as far as him not showing up today,
They only had 10 seats. There was no seat for him.
I'm not drawing any conclusion because these other Neanderthals decided to show up in that way. I mean, I think that was, and by the way, how much does Jennifer McCabe lack any self-awareness? I mean, you'd think she'd be like the smart one of the group, if that makes sense.
Well, she's supposed to be the mastermind, according to a lot of people.
Right. But I mean, to show up, I mean, what an obnoxious, I've never seen anything like that.
I was flabbergasted myself. There were no words.
There were
no words. The Good Witch, thanks for the 10. I'm late. What'd you think of Brian Albert, Jen McCabe, and Colin in the courtroom today? I was speechless. I was speechless when that happened. I'm like, what? In whose world was this a good idea for anyone? It wasn't good for the prosecution, in my mind.
I don't think I think it definitely is actually a net gain for the defense. I mean, it reeks of intimidation, particularly because other than McCabe, who claimed that she was close to John O'Keefe. So, I mean, take that at face value, whatever. I mean, they communicated. He clearly knew her somehow, some way. But why was Colin Albert there other than to instigate and gaslight and all of that? He didn't know him. He's much younger. If anything, his relationship was kind of the obnoxious knucklehead kid who ran across the lawn kind of thing.
Well, because Karen said when she was brought into custody the second time when they upgraded the charges in June, we're all in on the same joke, right?
Yeah,
Brian Albert and Colin
right. And look
beat
who
the
shows up.
bejesus out of him and he was pulverized. So now these two show up
It's
and to stare her down.
insane. And you better believe the jury is like, wow, why are those guys here? And do they
Yeah,
think
I
that's
don't.
going to make them look better? Do they think that, again, because Brian Albert wears his cardigan, that this makes the jury forget about, the lying butt dials and everything else?
Yeah, 100%.
Doesn't make
I
any
really
sense.
thought, Lorraine says, I really thought he was going to have a heart attack when he asked Bev to show Joe Paul video. He sounds sick as well, constantly coughing.
Hey, look, I don't want to comment on his health or physical appearance other than
Mhm.
the clearing his throat. It's a perfect storm of bad because he just has no charisma. I mean, the famous thing is, he has the personality of a dial tone.
You coined that.
But I mean, he has no modulation, none, zero at any time. And he looks, kind of frumpy and has really bad posture, no confidence. And then you add this constant hacking as part of that. And you start to get fed up because, I mean, nobody wants him to be sick, literally, if you are a normal person.
Mhm.
I don't wish harm on him. I just think he's a
No.
terrible prosecutor. But it's when you have to listen to him, you start to dislike him, which is in some ways not fair. But when you listen to him, you want to go crazy. You just want to say, make this stop. And then he starts coughing and clearing his throat and droning on, and you lose focus. And I don't know about you, but there are times you just walk away, can't listen to it.
Yeah, it becomes insufferable.
It becomes
Ivy May.
insufferable. But you and I have the ability to get up and walk away.
I
The
know.
jury is trapped. I mean, they're
Yeah.
literally trapped in this chasm of awful. And
Groundhog Day.
yeah, I mean,
Groundhog Day.
every day. And he never even modulated, like during the trial, when he would get to what I guess he should have perceived as some of his big points.
Yes.
And he just droned through that. So the jury,
No passion,
none.
no conviction. He doesn't believe what he's saying. He doesn't emphasize the important points.
I don't think he cares. And that's the sad thing. I think he could care less about the following questions. A, do I really believe in my mind, meaning him, not me, that Karen Reed did this? I think his answer to that question is, I don't really know, and I don't really care. Do you think she should be convicted? I think the answer in his mind is, I don't really know, and I don't really care. And whether she's convicted or acquitted, she's going to get acquitted. I think he's just going to walk out. And as he's walking out, put his bag over his shoulders, skulk out and say, what's for dinner? And I don't have to come to work and, make the donuts tomorrow morning. The donut shop closing.
He gets paid either way. He's on a salary. The guy makes $91,000 a year. Do you think he really cares?
I don't think
would
he cares at all. And but I mean, the sad thing is he's got a lot of power, as a prosecutor, and he's got a woman's life hanging in the balance. Her reputation to some extent is damaged no matter what, which is also, even if she gets acquitted, she lost her job, she lost her livelihood, she's going to get stares the rest of her life.
Yeah.
It's high profile, and unfortunately, when you're a defendant, that's not a good thing. But Lally is just gonna, get in his Toyota Corolla, put on the radio, and just go home. And
I bet he drives a Ford Edge because everyone else in town does. I think that's the go-to company car.
I'm thinking of Volkswagen. Nice, steady, sturdy, gets the job done, but it's not flashy.
I'm thinking if they give him a company car, that was probably an Edge. I don't know. Ivy May from Australia says, Melanie and Mark, thank you for giving some passion and sanity to this world for all of us. If I was on the jury with those three McAlberts staring at me, I'd want to double down against them.
That's the risk. Yeah, that's precisely.
Very well.
They really are thugs. This is crazy. Like, do you think I mean, now you're going outside the evidence too, but in your mind, you're a juror and you're basically saying, oh my God, these people are such lunatics that they're like staring us down. Do we really think that they're not willing, if John O'Keefe goes in there drunk and is angry and says the wrong thing, that they're not willing to do what they did? The same thing like what they did in Canton the other night with that crazy thing. They just all show up ready to, pull up, or whatever the words were.
Rumble. We're ready to rumble. Let's get ready
It's
to rumble.
crazy.
Go Grease Lightning.
I mean, they just have no self-awareness. And we were talking about this last night. Somebody has a picture where they're all sitting outside this the pizza place in Canton. And I said last night, I'm like, it looks like Satriali's pork store from The Sopranos. I mean,
Right.
they're all
That's right.
all it's missing is like the
Next
big
to-
pig hanging over the door. I mean, these are like wannabe. They're just Irish instead of Italian, I guess. And that's
Yeah,
not
they have the Irish mob
don't
too.
get
Look,
mad.
it's like right next to Bada Bing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but they're all just sitting out there, like, and of course, I get the flashbacks of that crazy video somebody made, that little rap song with,
Bang
Jack,
bang,
yeah, and pull up.
bang bang.
And that's what
I
they were
remember
doing.
when we were at lunch is the first time Alan
God,
Jackson heard the Bang Bang song, and I think Kelly
that
played it
was,
on her phone,
yeah.
and he thought it was funny.
Oh, how could you not? It is. I mean, that was. Did you see the? And then
People like your pink tie. BLT likes your pink tie for your free
well,
Karen read.
yeah, no, I guess that's true. Did you see this other online thing that somebody made of the lady in Canton who went crazy? I guess that's what Jill Daniels, is that her name? The sister of
Well, that's the one who attacked Turtle Boy. That's what they're
right.
talking
That's
about.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. But did you see how somebody superimposed like the dancers doing the Macarena next to her? Because she's all like flailing her. You have to see this.
No.
We were talking about this last
Send
night.
it to me.
You I'll send it. I'll dig it out, and you have to see it. It's
All right. Do you need a little break because you have to go on? You have another appearance.
yeah. I just
Or you have a minute?
yeah. Give me 5 minutes, but or I'll take 5 more minutes. But if you watch this video that I'll send to you,
Mhm.
don't have coffee or water in your mouth when you watch it.
Did you spit
They're
out
all
your? Did you
great.
spit your coffee out?
No, but it damn close. I mean, it's funny. It's good stuff.
Melissa says, I'm worried about this jury. It's a small town and now they're home. Who's to say the McAlberts don't get to one of them? I can't. Well, it's interesting to me that they're not sequestered in a case like this, but
Well,
what
now
say you
you get
about
worried
this?
about it because I mean, this is like real thuggery and intimidation. I mean, as far as the town, there's nothing to suggest the jurors are from Canton. I mean, Norfolk County is a pretty big place, relatively speaking. Yeah, I mean, in Canton's just one town out of 20 or 30, whatever it is. But I mean, look, they're there. It's close to home, and they show up. And are they going to show up for the verdict? I mean, who knows?
We don't know. The Bride of Frankentruck. I love when people change their username to match the trial. This is fantastic. For the 20, thanks for the 20. Love to both of you go in a Dedham tomorrow. Any advice on where to park? Are there porta potties? Read stock tomorrow. We were driven there, so we don't know
Yeah.
where to park.
We-
We had
We're
special parking.
VIPs, so our parking advice is get someone to drive you.
Right.
As far as are there porta potties there, I don't know, but I have general advice: never use a porta potty unless it's
Right.
very big emergency. Find another place. But it's quite a scene out there, and it must have been 4 times crazy today than it was even when we were there, when it was absolutely crazy.
Right. When we were there, maybe there was 100 people, maybe. But today I heard there was something like 3,000.
I'm not surprised. Well, they figured there might have been a verdict, and it's getting to the end, and everybody wants to be a part of a story, so it's crazy.
Yeah, Mama Carter says I think they're sleeping on it and verdict in the morning. I
I
mean,
think that's
maybe.
reasonable. I think that's. I mean, I don't know, but I think that at this point, I would suspect, if I'm guessing, before lunch. I think, but that's just a guess.
2 of my kids have proms tomorrow night, so I'd really like to get this done before the prom pictures.
Yeah.
Mrs. Parks in the house, thanks. Cruella DeVille and the 2 toners were clearly props for the Commonwealth, in my opinion. Look, jury peoples, even Officer Don O'Keefe's family thinks they were innocent, that we are innocent.
Take. The problem is they're so mean looking and so whatever, but the fact that they are sitting with the O'Keefes, I think that a jury would recognize what the commenter said, which is if they're sitting with the O'Keefes, perhaps we're getting a blessing from the victim's family that these people are okay, so you can give them a pass too.
Mm-hmm. Carrie Ann, thanks. Shorter Lally, focus on the small things and the truth will reveal itself. Yeah, just like
I have to tell you, I took great. My favorite TV show of all time is Columbo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, and I'm talking like the old Columbos, not these terrible remakes that they made in the 90s and 2000s when he was already like 80 years old and whatever. But so of course, one of Columbo's things is always these little things that bother him that always come back. And I take great offense at Adam Lally, who is no Columbo. Okay, you're kind of frumpy in that way, but not in the effective part of it. And listening to him try to talk about the little things like Columbo, no, you're not. You're not Columbo.
No. Toochman picking the foreman before the alternates was like she picked a juror. Yeah, why wouldn't they pick the
Weird.
alternates first and then she gets to pick the foreman after that? I don't know. They have some weird world rules in Massachusetts, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I think their whole process is certainly having the judge pick just juror one. But I agree. I don't know why you wouldn't get rid of the alternates, get them out of there, and then just do the stuff. I don't know why you would keep the alternates to watch, the judge say eeny, meeny, miny, four person. I don't know that
Yeah.
a lot of this procedure is weird. I hate how she does everything at sidebar.
Hmm.
It's ridiculous. I don't know why they can't, if the jury's not in the room, just argue in court unless there's some reason that something ought to be, concealed. But I don't know
Right.
why they can't just, anytime somebody from the defense tries to start legal argument, she cuts it off, go up there. She wants nothing publicly available. And I think that's, especially in a case like this, that's terrible.
And then on the other hand, when a witness is saying something, that she doesn't think is good for the prosecution, she's like, Mr. Lally, do you want to object? Mr. Lally, do you have an objection?
She does that. And then I
Not
also,
helping.
the other thing, I mean, I know we're getting to it's over. We don't have to listen to her do this anymore. One of the things that really bothered me was when someone would object and then the judge would just ask the question herself in a very leading manner, clearly implying what the witness should say.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think 100% of the time that she did that, the witness said
Picked up
exactly
on it.
what the
Hmm.
objector wanted, and which of
Yeah.
course was
Mr.
Lally.
Lally, ask it another way. Ask it another way. And meanwhile, his first question was exactly had the answer included in the question.
Yeah. Well,
O town
apparently leading questions aren't a thing in Massachusetts either, because my God, although
on
I
direct.
yeah, I mean, I have a feeling too that the defense didn't object to a lot of it because it didn't matter, and it's what's the point? It's just
Hmm.
coming in and let's get on with it. But it's a very strange courtroom, very strange judge and her manners. Um,
The jurisdiction is very strange in a lot of ways too. I mean, I felt like we were in the Twilight Zone a little bit, didn't it? Just
yeah, no, it felt really small town in there, and it's not that small,
not
but
in a derogatory way. It's just very different
no,
from, the
yeah,
five boroughs, I would say, or
yeah, but it felt too cozy where, and we make jokes about this in certain counties in New York where, the DA runs the courthouse. You see that in a lot of the smaller counties. And again, Norfolk's not that small, but you just get the feel. I mean, clearly the defense lawyers, I mean, obviously two of the three are from California, are the quintessential outsiders. Okay,
right.
fine. But she treats Yannetti like an outsider too. I mean, I know he's more a Boston
Yeah,
guy than a
she
Norfolk
did.
guy, but I mean, I have to assume he's been in that courthouse in front of that judge many times over the years. I would think. I don't know, but I would think. And she clearly doesn't like any of them.
There's a lot of this is the way we do it here.
Yeah,
It's a privilege for you to be admitted pro hoc vice here. That maybe that's how you do it in California. I find her to be
yeah,
very patronizing also to the female attorney on the defense team, Ms. Little, no relation to myself, but
right. Yeah,
I
I
just
think
do.
also she doesn't like, you know, the big time lawyers. That's not what she wants. She wants a nice, simple, quiet court. I mean, every time these guys start advocating and are going to get pissed off and build a record, she's like, I don't want to hear it. There's no jury. Cut it off. I mean, she clearly doesn't want anything. It's very culturally different.
Hmm.
She doesn't want anything that's kind of harmful to the prosecution.
But if the jury's picking up on it, like they're outsiders, the judge is treating them like they're outsiders. Karen Reed is also an outsider, and
Yeah,
this is, it's the subtleties that the jury picks up on it a lot of times, and a lot of times also, and I hate to say this, but it's true, it's not always about the evidence. A lot of times it's about the attorneys that the jury likes better. A lot of times.
Well,
So
about that, then if I'm Karen Reed, I'm feeling very happy
yeah,
because I mean, I think, you know, look, I would imagine the jury must love Jackson. I mean, he's really charismatic. And Yannetti is really good. And of course, he's also one of them, you know, he
and the
talks like one of
viewers love them both equally, I would say.
yeah.
Yeah.
But Mike, so you have like, you know, the guy from California who's really charismatic, and you have the local guy who's and talks and looks like you with his is very charismatic and very good.
Not
So
me. He doesn't look like me.
no,
Oh, local guy. Oh, you mean, oh, who
yeah,
looks like
no,
them? The jury. Okay.
Yannetti. Yeah, I'm saying like
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I'm like, you know, I'm from here too, and I talk
Right.
like you and all that. And then, you know, you have Lally, who is, you know,
Awkward. He's a little bit awkward. We can say it.
he is, but it's an interesting job to choose. But you know, I get it. You're a lawyer. It's a government job. It is what it
Hmm.
is. But you know, you're going to try a really insane murder case. Which, by the way, from a lawyer's perspective, if you're a prosecutor, this is a dream case. I mean, how do you not get excited
Right.
and motivated, whatever your choice is about what you think happened and whether you should prosecute or not? If you're going to do it, how are you not all fired up for a case like this?
Yeah.
Because
I
it's not.
mean, if not now, when? Right?
Well,
This is a case that can make or break a career. And for three of the attorneys involved, it's going to make their career. And for one, it may just break his career. Like he could be done after this.
Well, yeah, well, everyone knows who he is. I mean, it's there's like memes online, and it's everybody watches on, you know, whatever they watch on. It's streamed all over the place. You know, the internet's forever, and that's not always a good thing, but it's not a good thing for him if you're embarrassing yourself on. And I mean, we're lawyers. What do we do when you
Right.
watch these things? You criticize other lawyers, their performance, or you analyze whatever it is. And having all these lawyers constantly saying, my God, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's terrible, has no passion. I mean, that's just not how I'd want to be remembered
Yeah,
by colleagues and peers.
I totally agree. All right. I
Yeah.
know you have another appearance.
Yeah.
So if you have
Yep.
anything you want to say, but thank you so much for coming because
Yeah.
we've
Thanks for
missed you.
having me.
And,
Okay.
if your trial like ends or
I
tomorrow you get an adjournment or whatever, and you want to come on anytime, you have an open
7
invitation to come hang with me.
appreciate that. 7 weeks this thing has been going on.
Your trial's been going on for 7
The
weeks. What kind of
only the
case is
old
it?
it's I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it because it'll
It
take
was a
forever.
criminal case? It's a
Yeah.
criminal case, obviously.
Now, the only thing that's saving grace is it's a bench trial, so there are days off. So it hasn't been, but you know, it's like 3 days a week for 7 weeks for what at the end of the day is a possession of several weapons, but it's related to the spouse of someone who was indicted for murder, and so they're coming after. It's complicated. It's
All right, so it's a weapons charge, felonies, big deal. If people want to hire you as their criminal defense attorney, where can they find you?
they can find me at Bederow Law, and that's my website too, just .com.
Mm-hmm.
My
Federalaw.com. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, my contact information is on the website if there is a legal problem in New York or New Jersey or
New
federal
York.
court.
Oh, good. Good. I'll link it below. So anybody who needs representation will call you.
Yeah, and I've been laughing, and I'm only half laughing, but I think I need to cut a check to the bar people in Massachusetts and then add that to the collection, I think.
No, well, I don't know if they're reciprocal. Are they reciprocal or are they
Yeah,
going to make you take the bar exam again?
no, I won't take another bar exam. No,
Oh, who
they'll
will?
let you. Yeah, no,
Oh,
Massachusetts, I could just write a check,
depends on who's
demonstrate.
in charge. If Beverly Cannoni is on the committee, she's like, no, we don't want him.
I don't think I'd be practicing in Norfolk County. That would probably
She
be
knew
not.
we were there. She knew we were in the courtroom. Like she knew who we were. That was a little bit weird.
That was totally weird. That was weird.
Right?
Well, Judge, if you're watching us right now,
Hi, Judge. We love you. You have such a better vibe in person than on TV. Totally
yeah,
friendly vibe in person. I thought.
yeah,
I thought so. I really did. And I said
yeah,
that. Let's be honest.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, that was weird though, wasn't it?
It was.
But
I mean,
whatever.
you do something on YouTube, you don't think anybody watches it, and then it's crazy that people wanted pictures with us too,
That was weird.
Loved all the supporters. There's
Yeah,
so much
yeah,
support.
no, they're crazy. They're like so into this, and that's another thing with like before I go, like the Lally people. Can you imagine walking by that every day? You're prosecuting an alleged murder of a police
Oh,
officer, okay? And everybody's on the defendant's side for allegedly murdering a police officer.
I know.
I mean, that's not generally what you consider a sympathetic defendant.
No,
This
no.
this defendant has a freaking billboard on Route 1 right outside Gillette
Oh, I
Stadium.
didn't see that. Really?
Yeah.
A free Karen Reed billboard? Well,
Yeah,
people
with
in Massachusetts know that this has been going on for decades
I mean,
and they're tired of it. They're fed up and they're just not going to take it anymore.
it's on
Mad as
Route
hell.
1 right by Gillette Stadium, which means on the Sundays in fall, there are 60,000 people going by that thing.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's incredible.
That's insane.
Yeah.
All right, betterolaw.com. Come back and see me
I
real
will.
soon. I
I
mean, we'll
will.
have a verdict party tomorrow. Hopefully this is going to happen. And
It'll happen. I
if
think
you
it's
want to
going to
call
happen.
in from the courthouse, I'm here all day.
Oh, calling from Queens. There's no place I'd rather be for 7
Maybe there's
weeks.
a payphone. Probably there still is, I think, a payphone somewhere in that building.
The problem is there's nowhere to eat during lunch break on Queens Boulevard. It's just not,
It's not where you want to be.
it's not what you want. It's
Don't
not like,
don't eat off the salad bar at the bodega. Don't do that.
no,
It's
I mean,
salmonella waiting to happen.
when you try a case of Manhattan, you're in Chinatown and Little Italy and
Right.
Tribeca, and it's a little more interesting. Here, it's either a bodega or nothing. So, anyway,
Thank
right.
you. I'm going
Having
to
me.
thank some more people. I'm going to send
Okay.
everybody over to watch you again at 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
So
Take
I
care.
will send the audience with you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Good one.
Bye. All right. That was amazing. It was so good to get his opinion and his take. And I know you guys wanted to hear it. So I was glad that he could come and join us for at least a little while. New Jersey Suze, thank you so much for your super sticker. And another super sticker from New Jersey Suze. Thanks, New Jersey Suze. O-Town Gen X girl, thank you for your super sticker. Sarah Gray, thank you for being a member for 8 months. You must be an OG. And it says, thanking me for covering this trial daily with you. It's my pleasure. Sharma Lily, thanks for the 2. Coincidence criminals never commit to a timeline. Yeah. Carrie and Jen made a timeline before they testified. What if Karen Reed never drove away? What if she went to the door looking for Officer John O'Keefe? Clearly, this is why they were so obsessed with Karen Reed in her car. Yes or yes? That is a great point. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Mrs. Parks in the house. Kel, thanks for the 20. Thank you for all you do. Congratulations on your first year. Happy anniversary. Love you. Oh, love you too. And everyone, please, prayers up and condolences to Kelly. Lost her mom recently. She's one of my amazing moderators. And thank you, Cal, for all that you do and through your grief. And we are so, so sorry about your mom. And heaven just got a whole lot more awesome. That's the only thing that I can think of to say that maybe have some comfort, but love you. Thank you so much. Cheryl, thanks for your super sticker. And Chloe Albert's Revenge. Lally borrowed Trooper Prawl's oak tag and crayons for his closing arguments today. They must be besties now. Sharon, a White Claw with a swirly straw. Yeah, you are. That's hilarious. Stephanie, thanks to the 10. Thank you both for your dedication to this case. As a fellow New Yorker who went to university in Massachusetts, I'm appalled. You did, huh? Where did you go to college? You go to ZooMass? Kim, thanks for the 10. We did get some insight into what the kids testified to today. We did. We knew, actually, we did a show. We knew the kids testified that Karen did not have access to the ring footage. And they also testified about some arguments that they had. But, when you're a child, everything seems like a big deal, right? It's a different lens that you're looking through. Thanks, Kim, for the super chat. Cheryl, thank you. I was a juror in 2 cases. It takes time to go through all the jury instructions, multiple charges with subcharges and prongs. It does take time to go through it all. It does. So don't anybody get worried. They haven't come back just yet. Jen Del Rio, thanks for becoming a member. And remember also, it was stalled today by at least an hour and a half with the juror issue. So we're a little behind on the time. O-Town Gen X girl, thanks for the 5. I'm telling you, the McAlberts are threatening Lally, and witnesses cannot believe they would act this way unless someone forcing their hand and mouth. Thank you. Crime Time, thanks for tuning in from Australia. Thanks for the 10. Funny story, my ex got hit by a bus once. His elbow hit the corner of the bus at 40 kilometers an hour. Neither his elbow or the bus were damaged during this incident. Sure, it hurt, but no broken headlight or elbow. Wow, that's crazy. Like, what a coincidence. Crazy. Furious, thank you. Turtle Boy said the tow truck driver would refuse to admit anything if called to the stand, and he wouldn't be a good witness. If that's true, I don't know why he's even saying anything now. Agreed. RNC, thank you. I meant to say in Jackson's defense, there were people that didn't agree. Karen said it, and one changed their testimony after the fact. Right. He said in his closing, 4 people said during the trial that she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him 4 times. And I don't think that's true. Helene, thank you. Brian Albert is buddies with Brian Higgins, an ATF agent, aka federal agent. Why don't these bozos just agree with the evidence provided by their federal brethren? Fishy. Exactly. Just like, some FBI twits on the cesspool, not agreeing with FBI's own hired guns. I don't get it. Call me crazy. I've been called worse. Barbara, thanks for the 5. BLT, one of AJ's best lines today. Oop. I just full screen this. Massachusetts, best and brightest Trooper Paul. That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny. Thanks, Jilly Bean, for being a member for a month. Says my first trial watching, and I'm a nervous wreck. Well, it's my first trial live streaming, and I'm right there with you. So we're in it. We live here now. Karen, thank you. Trooper Joe Paul. It just did. It just did. Just did. How did it happen? It just did. Paula, thank you for gifting 10 memberships, and to those who received them. It's very generous, Paula. Welcome. Melissa, thank you for your super sticker. Furious. Chief Rafferty's contract was extended tonight. I'm what? Great. Town Crier, thanks for the 5. Imagine the scrutiny of the Alberts, the house that would have occurred in the immediate time had they not had their patsy and closed the investigation. Interesting. Or lucky. Imagine if it was lucky and he couldn't afford to defend himself. Or they would have just called it an accident because it was a plow and it wasn't intentional. He didn't have an argument with John O'Keefe earlier in the day about Dunkin' Donuts, and Lucky wouldn't have called John 53 times when he didn't come home. So maybe. Thanks to the 5. 30 pounds 1. Chantal, thank you for being a cupcake with sprinkles for 7 months. Miss Tone 518. Thanks for the 10. Watch the trial with you, Melanie. Your commentary. Only thing better is when Mark is on. Due to the sham of an investigation, John will not get justice. Cannot believe the Alberts showed up today. Free Karen Reed. That was crazy. I was like, you guys know that I'm never speechless. I was speechless when I saw that. I didn't even believe it until we actually saw it with our own eyes. Thanks, Ashley, for the 5. Richie Shredlord. Lally ends with the Trooper Paul reenactment video. And thanks. 5 years for the feds to get the CDL case against the Massachusetts State Police. Yeah, I did a whole show on that. The CDL licenses that they were trading for hot tubs and plunge pools and driveways. It was crazy. Mailboxes. So yeah, if it took 5 years for that, yeah, it could take longer. Hi, Mel. Sent you Sandra Birchmore meeting post from Mazda. Thank you very much. I'll take a look at that later. Thanks for being a member for a month. Somebody else has sent me the pleadings, so we'll start on that after we're done with this. How's that? JPC, thanks for the 10. Why weren't the bartenders called as witness? A great point. They called the bartender from the waterfall. She didn't say much. They didn't call the McCarthy's bartender. And in my opinion, even though Lally closed on it and he said she had 9 drinks and all this clear liquid, nobody ever testified what was actually in those drinks. We don't have any concrete evidence that there was really 9 vodka drinks. So that's a great point. I didn't like him closing on that because I didn't think there was any evidence on it, but jury got the instructions that they don't have to believe it if they didn't see evidence of it. Z, tow driver told Sean McDonough he wasn't in the Sally Port. That's what I heard too. I went also over to Sean's channel earlier today for a little bit of a verdict party, and I spent a little time over there earlier this afternoon. Costs, thanks for the 10. The folks in Norfolk County, don't forget the mistrial that Judge Bev had with the Chesna trial with the juror who would not deliberate. No wonder she's being so cautious with this jury. I know. I'm surprised that they're not sequestered, though. I kind of, now that you guys have brought that up, kind of am worried a little bit for the juror's safety. Hi, Suzanne. The crowds were huge today. We had a fantastic time. The Canton Select Board meeting was insane. The feed kept dropping. Mazda Media recorded it all. Thanks, everyone. If you want to go watch it, that's where you can go. Thanks, Suzanne, for being a member for 5 months. How many butt dials in one case? A lot. All of them. All of them right here in this case. It's 2024, or it was 2022 at the time. Who knew butt dials were still a thing, but apparently they are. In Canton, KMM, thanks for the 5. If I was a juror who sat through 30 days of this S show without being able to talk to anyone about it, I would want to talk to my fellow jurors, right? Right. They have all shared experience. They've been sitting there for so long talking about one of the biggest cases of our time, listening to it, being a juror on it. It's a very important job. You're right. They shouldn't rush through it. And yes, they should want to talk to each other about it. Magnolia Gypsy, thanks for the 5. McAlbert sitting behind AJ during close were the best chalks for the defense. Yeah. Yes, right on camera the whole time. And then notice when Lally closed, they cut Brian Albert out of the frame all of a suddenly. Nice guy, Eddie. Thanks for the super sticker. Just me. JM is 100% narcissist. JM would definitely show handcuffs. Barkley, thanks for the 5. I read that Brian Albert looked knowingly at the 4-person. Any chance the fix is in? Oh, God, don't even say that. Jurors too scared to make enemies of the Alberts. Ay, ay, ay. Craziness in Canton. Michaela, thanks. What did they mean when they said, what did they meant when they said this stinks? I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean, Michaela. Nice guy, Eddie. Could the McAlberts got to a juror to cause a hung jury? Or does that only happen in the movies? It happens in life too, but I can't speak to the truth or veracity or confirm or deny anything such as like that. But let's just hope they come back with a quick not guilty verdict tomorrow, and then we don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. Thanks for the 10. Twins mama, 2010. Twins, moms of twins are very special, aren't they? Senator Birchmore started the FBI investigation. That's what a lot of people think. And they kind of came upon this, right? Collaterally. Thanks. Deanna, thanks for the 5. I think Peg invited them. And what could they say? I don't think any of them wanted to be there. Brian was twitching. No, I think they did want to be there because if they didn't want to, they could have given one of their significant others the invitation. They took up 4 seats, those people. And those seats are very desirable on both sides. And specifically Brian and Colin they brought, when specifically those are the 2 people that Karen's on audio and video, but they didn't see the video, the jury, saying we're all in on the same joke. Brian Albert and Colin Albert pulverized John, something to that effect, and my taillight was cracked. So that was just crazy. Maybe he started twitching when AJ started saying nasty stuff about him and accusing him. Marcelo, thank you so much for your super chat. I would be seething if I was on the jury. The audacity and arrogance of these people is crazy. There's a special place in hell for people like that. I think you're not alone when you say that. Anti-BB2, thanks for the 10. Melanie and Mark, do you think the defense has private investigators watching the jury for any funny business? I don't think so. I don't know. If that's anything that's commonly done in high-profile trials. I don't know. Hashtag free Karen Reed. On that note, if you see something, say something. If you know something, say something. Kevin, thanks for the super chat. I expect the feds to issue the report right after the report for the Clinton Foundation is issued. They have done their damage. Good. Jax, I think it was jury intimidation. Salmon Landscaping, thanks. Growing up in Boston, I always said the cops are the biggest gang in the world. Yes, there's plenty of GD officers, but this case 100% backed up my lifelong claim. Hopefully, after this case, things change. Let's hope so. Thanks for the 10. Lisa Figalicious, do you think the jurors might now be scared of retaliation? That's why I did not like the idea of them sitting there. I don't know if the defense objected at all, but they are witnesses. They're entitled to be there. But the fact that they got up and talked about them being intimidated in this case, and then they sat there in what looked like a concerted effort to intimidate the jury and or Karen Reed is a little bit concerning. Carol, thanks for the 5. Someone commented in an earlier chat that she felt that Karen and the defense team left court today very upset. Did you guys get that impression? I did not. I didn't watch any of the outer court footage. Thanks, Scott. I will tell Mark where to go for lunch on Lefferts Boulevard. That's hilarious. I did not see that. I don't know if anybody else knows. Shauna, thanks for being a member. Mazela, does the jury enter the courthouse in a way that can see the mobs of Karen Reed supporters? I don't know. We were just talking about that, whether they come in the back door. How did Jackson and Little get involved? I don't know. I think Karen Reed found them on her own. Alan Jackson has represented celebrities like Kevin Spacey. I think he represented Harvey Weinstein at one time, and he was also the prosecutor on the Phil Spector case. So his reputation precedes him. That girl, thanks for the 10. My thought, if Karen Reed did not drop him off and he arrived at a different, in my opinion, Mr. Lucky could be there in that chair. Thanks. Yes, I've been saying that too. That would be crazy. Yes. What if anything? Jen McCabe was in court today. Go back and watch my earlier feed from this morning, which was demonetized, by the way, of course, because Lally had to say the F word probably 10 times in his closing. Jen McCabe was sitting behind Paul and Aaron O'Keefe. Next to her was Brian Albert. On her other side was Colin Albert. And next to Brian Albert was Kerry Roberts. And all four of them sat there for the entire morning. Justice for all. Thanks for the 5. Are the transcripts for this trial going to be available at some point? Usually they're not. Is that how we will find out what was said in sidebars? No, usually they don't become public. Kim, thank you for the 10. Why do you think John's family thinks Karen is guilty? With all of this evidence, the defense, 3 photos, the taillight today, sealed not guilty alone, let alone everything else they proved. I don't know. I don't know why John's family feels the way they do. If anybody else in the chat knows, I know that John's father really liked Karen a lot from what I hear. He went to church together on Sundays. We haven't seen him in the courtroom lately. I don't know. Cisco Kid, thank you. Any thoughts on the glass polycarbonate fragments found in John's sweatshirt? That has me hung up a little. I don't remember hearing any evidence about that. I remember hearing that all the clothing was scraped, the debris was scraped into an envelope all together. And I don't remember hearing any evidence that there were actual taillight fragments in there embedded in any shirt. So if anybody can point that out to me, who testified to that and when, please put it in the comments below so I can go back and look at it. Because I thought the debris was never tested. And I thought it was Ashley said there was no plastic in it. So I don't know. Mama T and the McAlberts have been referred to as the Timu Sopranos on X. That's funny. That is funny, Mama T. Comedy's not always pretty, as Auntie Deb taught us today. If you did not watch my morning stream, Auntie Deb came in towards the end and did some comedy for us, and it was very funny. And if you don't subscribe to Auntie Deb, please go do that on TikTok and on YouTube. Auntie Deb with 3 B's at the end, DEBB. And if you don't know, you need to know that he does short videos of this trial and he impersonates all the characters that we've seen. He's hilarious. Uplift, thanks for the 10. Sean McDonough said in an early podcast that someone from Canton called Yannetti after Karen was indicted and said she's innocent and described what happened in the house. Yeah, I think we pulled this up before. That's crazy. Oh, well, we knew that. We knew that was Scanlon, right? But then I think he backed off of it. So I don't know what happened with that guy, Scanlon. I don't know. CPU Mod 1, thanks. So thank you for covering the case. It's been awesome to watch it along with you. I learned a lot. I know my brother Tom, CPU, was so happy when you were in Massachusetts. Oh, Tom's your brother? That's awesome. Yeah, we took some pictures together. Tom's a great guy. He's very nice, very sweet. Christine, thanks for becoming a member. Is Lally throwing the trial to expose corruption? I don't think so. Sir Crash a lot. I don't think so. I don't think so. I just think he's not passionate about it and he doesn't believe it. And he's not a true believer in Karen Reed being guilty and he's not convincing. I don't know. It's just crazy to me. Luna's mom, thank you for the 10. Is there any law that pertains to state of mind during a confession of crime? I think she was grief-stricken and not capable of admitting guilt. Nothing burger for me. What say you? Well, I don't think it's been treated as a confession. There was no jury instruction on confession or coerced confession or false confession. I think they're just using it. And I think that a lot of people all of a sudden said they heard her say I did it. I don't consider it to be a confession. I consider it to be what she said on Nightline. Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead? And it's in no reports. It's in 0 reports. That exact phrase. I hit him, hit him. It's in 0 reports. If it was that important, don't you think it should be or would be? Indy Cindy, thanks for the 5. I wish I was a fly on the wall in the deliberation room. Me too. Elaine, you have done a fantastic job, says Elaine. Thank you, Elaine. And on top, thank you for your super sticker. All right, you guys, I can't even speak anymore. But what I'd like to do is I would like to redirect you over to Young Jerks because they are, Mark Bederow is over there now. So if you feel so inclined, you can go over there and watch that. Let me just set up the redirect for you. So this stream will teleport you right over there. And then what you need to do when you get there is say that Melanie sent you, or here we are, or the cupcakes are here, incoming, something like that. I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me for these last 31 days and for the 6 months that we've been covering all of the pretrial stuff on Karen Reed. I think we're up to like 70 something videos on the Karen Reed case and trial. And it's been a ride, and hopefully we're going to see a verdict tomorrow, and I hope that we will, and I hope it'll be an acquittal, and I hope that we will be able to celebrate it together tomorrow early before lunch. I have so much to do tomorrow. So thank you, mods, for this has been a huge this day. We've been on the air for like 10 hours today. I have no voice left. It's just gone. I'll put up the stream for tomorrow soon. I don't know what time that's going to be. I think, are they going to convene court and then send the jury back out? I might schedule it for just a little bit later, and then just be advised that have your notifications on so that if the verdict comes in like right away, I'll just go live right away. So may need to do some things in the morning, but thank you to my moderators who are tirelessly supporting me, and you guys are amazing. And please let me buy you pizza, something. Moderate, everyone, please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. Subscribe, like the videos, share it out, hit the notification bell, do all of those things for the YouTube. And yeah, give a like. Thank you, Scott. You're amazing. And all of you, little cupcake, Team Brittany, all of you, Cal, all you guys who are here tonight. And Melly needs my Melly in the morning. Melly, you can be Melly too. Melly number 2. Kathy, thank you so much for thanking me for my wise insights. And as I always say, my friends, remember, be cool, be kind, be classy. It's not hard. It is so not hard. I promise you, your life will be better for it. Breathe, get a good night's sleep, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Peace.